Alright, so in this final part, we are going to go ahead and then create a detail screen and then actually make sure we are able to navigate to the respective movies that are here. Okay, so let's go to the screens and I'll create a new file called details_screen. And then this will be a stateless widget and then we'll call this details screen. Now this detail screen needs to receive a movie, so when we click on this we need to send this movie over here so that we can get access to its details. So just like we did in the previous tutorial, I'll say final, and this is going to be of type movie, and then we'll just call it movie, and then we can go ahead and add this to the constructor just like this, so that anytime we call this specific class we can have access to the movie property. So this shouldn't be My keyboard does that sometimes, especially my M key. Alright, so we can go to the trending slider and then we are going to wrap a gesture detector around the entire movie card, so we can tell that the entire movie card starts from here, the clip are rect. So we can wrap this with a widget and then call this a gesture detector. So if you don't know what this widget does, it detects gestures. So it has a lot of gestures. So if I press this, you can see we have on double tap, cancel, down, all of those things. But we are interested in on tap. So when we tap this, what do we want to do? So when we tap this, we want to navigate to the details page. Okay, so we can say navigator.push. I spelled this wrongly. Oh my god. And then we pass in the context, and then the route is a material page route. Now if you're on iOS, you want to make that a Cupertino page route, and then the builder here is going to be a context. And then so just come out from that, and then we are going to use the fat arrow to return the details page. So here we can say we want the details screen, and then we need to pass in the movie. So how are we going to do that? Well, it's quite simple. To pass in the movie, we are simply going to get access to the snapshot. So we are going to say snapshot. Remember, the snapshot contains all the data we need. So we can say snapshot.data, and then we need to get hold of the item index, and then literally that's it. So it's a saying, so I can get rid of this. So this is what we need to do. So let me put some commas here so that I need to get a new keyboard. I press that a lot of times. Okay, so we are getting the item index because one, we need to figure out each one of these has an index. So let's say we're starting from here, so there's index 0, index 1, and so on and so forth. So we need to get access to the item index. So if this is index 4, then that is how we are going to know that, oh, okay, we are passing the movie of index 4 and send that its specific data, so the overview and things like that, to that class. Okay, that's literally what we are just doing. So I'll also grab this entire part and then head on to my movies list, since I'll be doing a similar thing there. So for this, let me see if I can find it. So I believe that is here. Okay, so I'm going to wrap that with the same gesture detector, and then in here, the on tap, we are going to pass the same navigator and then import the details screen. And then here it is not an item index, but just index, just like so. Go ahead and save this, and then we can test this. So if I click on this, then we are taken to that screen and we have a placeholder. That is fine. I'll just reload this. The reason why we have a placeholder is because if we go to the detail screen, we have a placeholder here. So we want to return a scaffold, since this is going to be a screen. And just so we know that was the actual thing, let's access the body property, and then let's access the center, and then let's put in a text widget, and then let's say details, or instead of even saying details, Just a minute, let me put in some comments here, see if I can format this. Am I missing something? Oh, I didn't pass the child, so let's go ahead and say child, if I can spell. So instead of just typing details, what we can do is we can say we can use movie dot, so you can see we have access to this, so we can say movie dot title, and this can be a constant. So let me have this so that we can see whether we have this working. So if I click on one of these, so let's say the flash, you can see we have the title saying the flash. Now we have no way of going back, so for now what I'll do is I'll just put an up bar here, just like this, so that we can navigate back. So I'll save this and I can go back. If I click on Shawshank Redemption, then we should have its title there. As you can see, The Godfather, Oppenheimer. So cool, right? So you can already see we are making progress with this. Okay, so let's go ahead and then build the detail screen. Now I'm going to build this detail screen slightly different, so let me just pick one of these. We don't need this center part, and I actually don't need an up bar. And because we don't need an up bar, I would have to build our own back button. Okay, so I'm going to use a custom scroll view for the body. So I'm going to say custom scroll view, and the reason why I'm using this is because I want to use a sliver up bar, and the only way a sliver up bar works is for you to use a custom scroll view. Okay, so in here, and the interesting thing about this is going to take, sorry, oh my god, VS Code. Oh, this is going to take what we call slivers, and slivers is a list. So a sliver, the simplest definition they give is a scrollable portion of your screen. Okay, now in here, the first sliver I'm going to pass is a sliver up bar. So let's say sliver up bar, and we have access to picking, like, you can pick a large version of it. You can pick a large version of that up bar. Don't worry, you'll soon see what we are building as we move on. So for the sliver up bar, we can access some of its properties. So the leading property of it, so whatever we'll see over there, what I'm going to do is, this is where we create our back button. Okay, so the leading aspect of it, I'm going to return a container, and this container is going to have a height of about, let's say, how is 70, and then let's say a width of 70. So we are trying to create like a perfect square, if I can say that. And then let's give it some margin. So from the top bottom, so we can say edge inserts dot only, and then we want to say that from the top we want it to be, let's say, 8, and the starting point, so we have start. Why isn't that showing? Am I messing up something? So I know eventually I'm going to remove this, but just so I can see what I'm doing, let's format this a bit. So edge inserts only, then why isn't this working? Oh, so I actually need to use a different type. So I'm going to use directional, but you know what, from the left, let's say we want about 8. Okay, so there is another type. So if I can get this to, just to show you, we have edge inserts directional. Okay, so I thought I used this, and this has slightly different properties. So you have like the start, like what I was looking for. If I can get rid of one of these, so you see we have the start I was looking for. But anyway, let's see if this does the same job. Okay, so now we have that. Then let's access the decoration property of that, and then we are going to get access to the box decoration. And then for the box decoration, we need to, oh my god, we need access to the color, and we are going to use, oh my god, I just have to hope I'm typing the right thing. We're going to grab this color. Now I don't know whether I have this, I don't know if that's the color I need. Yeah, let's go ahead and use this color. So for the color, let's say we are going to go with our colors. I don't remember the spelling and if VS Code will allow me to see. So let me check this properly. So I have this with a U. So let's see if we can access that. So colors dot, let's use a scaffold background color and let's make this a const. I'll be changing these very soon. Okay, so I cannot show you this yet because this app is going to crash. We need to put in, you know what, let me just save so that you can see. But this is what we've done so far, as you can see. Okay, and I think there isn't enough space from the top, so let's make this 16 and 16 maybe. Save this, and that looks okay. Put a comma here, format this, and then let's move on. So still with the box decoration, I need to get some border radius. So I'll go with all. In fact, border radius is circular, and then here I'll pass in, let's say 8, not 88. Go away. Let's save this so we can see that's in there, and then now we can get onto the child of the container. So the child of this container is going to be an icon button. So let's get this. So the onPressed for the icon button is, we are just going to pop. So we are going to say navigator.pop, and then we can pass in the context. So this would just remove the screen that we are in, and in the icon we are going to use, so I believe this is going to be a constant icon. So we can say icon, and we are going to use the icons dot arrow back rounded. So if I can find arrow back rounded, now feel free to pick any of those that you want. I'm going to go ahead and try and save this if VS Code will allow me to, and I'm going to go ahead and save this, and you can see we have that. Okay, now if you wanted, you can extract this entire container, so that will be our back button, and I think that's a good thing to do. But for now, let's go ahead and just get the screen done with. So the next thing still in the Slaver app bar is, for now I'm just going to give it a background color, so it has a property like that. So I'm going to give it the same color of the scaffold background color. So I'm going to grab this and paste this here, get rid of this, and then we have something called an expanded height. So by default we can set this to be of a certain height when you open it. So unlike the regular app bar that is just here, you can set this to given heights, okay, and you can populate it with something. So that's what you're trying to do. So the expanded height here, I'm just going to go with, say, 500, so about half of the screen or more. And I'm going to add a few properties here, like pinned. I'll set this to true, and I'm going to set this to, there's also a property called floating. I'll also set this to true, and then we'll soon be seeing what we've done so far. Then we have the flexible space, and here we are going to assign a flexible space bar, just like this. And then this is where we can go ahead and start putting things in. So for now, let me save this and see if that changes. So we can see what we've done because the background and that is the same color. So just so we can see what we've done, let me actually, let me see, do I mess this up if I do this? So you can see this is what we have so far. This is just what I've done. Okay, so let me just undo that. So now we inside here, so within that space we can have something like the title. Okay, so for the title, what can we put there? Well, we can put in the movie title. So we can say movie, I'm spelling this right, movie.title, just like that. And we are being told the string argument cannot be assigned to the parameter of type widget, of course. So I'm going to cut this, make a text widget, and then paste this in there, just like this. I hope this isn't too confusing. Now I could have just used a, what do you call it, a regular app bar and do that, but I just thought this is another widget for us to learn. And what I'll go ahead and do is, I haven't used enough of the Google fonts, so let's go ahead and style this. So let's get access to our Google fonts dot I don't know, just search for some font. Let's use Belaza. I don't know what that font looks like, but probably that might be good. And here we can get access to the font size, and maybe let's say 16 for now. I think that's always the default font size. Let's say 17, and let's set the font weight to about font weights. Let's go with W600. We can always change all of these later if you're not happy with them. Okay, so let me go ahead and save this. So here we are getting Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Okay, and the beautiful thing is we can set a background. Okay, so right after the text we can have background. So the background, this is where we can pass in the image that we would need. And where is our image coming from? An image network. So so let me just actually do this. So we can say image.network like we did earlier, and what is going to be the source of this? So the same way we got this thing. So this time I'll start with the source. So just as we did, remember we have the path of the image in our constants. So let's go ahead and then do the same thing. So here we would say constants dot image path, and then we come out from that, and then we can concatenate the movie and then access the so here it's up to you, but you are meant to use the backdrop path. Okay, and sometimes it actually looks really bad. Okay, so you can see how that looks over here when we use the backdrop path. So what we can try to do is, let me format this a bit. So now let's go ahead and use the filter quality and make that high, and then the fit, let's go with box fit dot cover. Save that, and then we get this. Now the problem with doing it this way is that you see the image is blown and it isn't really sharp. So that is the thing. If you go ahead and use the poster, spelling that wrong, path, why do I keep doing that? Then you get this with the title, and this is sharper. So I think the choice, it's yours here at this point. And of course you can see this is hard to see, so I'm not going to do this, but what you can do is you can put in a gradient on top of this so that you can see exactly what the text is going to be. Okay, but I think I'll just maintain the backdrop path. I don't know why it isn't showing again. Backdrop path, is that the right thing? You know what, let me just undo this. Okay, save this, and I'll just leave this for now. Okay, I'll just leave this for now. Now if we wanted, we could also clip this so that it looks a bit cooler. So what do I mean by that? So this background, we can wrap this image.network with a clip rect, and then we can set the border radius. So we can say border radius, and then we can say border radius dot only, and then here we can access like the bottom left, and then we can say radius dot circular, and it's up to you, but I think 24 is fine. And then here we can also access the bottom right, and then basically if this will allow me to, VS Code is starting to be annoying. So literally we are accessing this part and then that part. So if I save this, hopefully you can see we have that clear part. Now you can see how this is behaving. So essentially what this sliver does is that the sliver up bar and all of that, this and up bar by default is expanded. We can do this, but if you have a lot of content and we scroll, so these properties that I put in here, okay, so the expanded height is 500, that's why it is here. Now pin simply means when we scroll this to a point, the title is going to get pinned as an up bar right here, and then the image will also disappear. Okay, that's literally just like what it means. So we are almost done with that. So we can test this. So if I go back, that works. If I tap on Guardians of the Galaxy, so you can see we are able to pick that area. And if I click on Shawshank Redemption, you can see we are able to get that. So it is up to you. I kind of feel like I want to use the poster path. So if you select this, so the only thing is that with the poster path, this is going to, like, you have the title already. So maybe what you can do is, if you use contain, then your image looks like that. So you have this, which really doesn't look good. So if I go back and I pick maybe this, you can see we have something like this. So yeah, if I try fill, then well, that kind of works. So let's see. But then it's stretched. You can see they look stretched. I'm kind of tempted to leave it as it is without having the title here. The choice is yours. I'll leave that for you to make. So you can either choose not to put this here so that you have the title here, or yeah, it's up to you. So feel free, make whatever changes you feel is best for you. Okay, so let's continue. What movie is this? The channel. Anyway, so we would scroll all the way down up to where we have the large. So over here. So still in the custom scroll view. Now the thing with the custom scroll view is, if you wanted to use any other type of widget, you can just type it. You can just go ahead and say pattern and start working with it. You're going to have issues. Okay, so what we are going to do is, you normally want to use something called a sliver to box adapter. So let's say sliver to box adapter, and inside here, if I can put a comma, I'm going to pass in the child. So we are now getting to the bottom of this part, and I want to create some pattern. So I'm going to pass in a pattern as a child, and we can say edge inserts dot all. So let's go with all, and I'm going to pass in the value of 12 for now, and let's see if we can format that. So the child of the pattern is then going to be a column, and then of course column is going to take some children, and then the first child of the column. And just so we can get rid of this, I'm just going to add the const modifier, but I definitely know we would have to get rid of it later. So over here, the first child of the column is going to be a text widget, and then this text is going to say overview. So this is the overview part of the movie, and let's go ahead and style this a bit. So in the spirit of being slightly lazy, I'm going to grab this style over here, and I'm going to paste this in here. So yeah, I knew this was going to happen, so I'm going to cut this and then just paste this here. Now I don't know, let's just use a different font. So let's try Open Sans, and probably let's make this a bit bold, and let's make the font size, let's say 25 or more. You know what, let's crank it up. Let's crank it up. Let's go crazy. Have fun whilst you're working. You are literally like a god. And I'm going to save this. So we have our overview right here. Now I don't know whether to put it on the left or it's fine in the middle. I'm not really sure, but let's move on. If you feel like changing it, you can change it. And if you want to change it, you just need to set the cross axis alignment to cross axis alignment.start, and that puts it over there. But for the meantime, I think I'll leave it in the center. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'll leave it in the center. So now that we have the overview, the next thing we need to do is go ahead. So after the text, we give some space. So let's use a size box, and then let's give this a height of about 16. And then after that, let's use a size box. So no, we don't need a size box. Since we're in a column, we can just use text. And then for the text here, we can access the movie.overview right here, and then we can style it a bit. So hopefully I still have the, okay, no, I don't have that. So I'm going to copy this style and I'll make some changes. So let's make this say 25, and let's make this somewhat, let's say, let me go for 400. And in the spirit of changing fonts, let's go with Roberto Road Rage. I don't know what font that is, but I'm going to save it and Oh no, that's actually quite bad. Let's go for Roboto. That's a lot better. So as you can see, we are getting a lot of the text in there. And let me see. Now we can try to make this text justified so that we have equal, like, as it's a straight, this part is so straight. So we can try that with the text align property, and we can say text align dot let's say justify, see how that looks like. I just don't like the fact that it stretches some of them. So let's go back and let's get Schneider's list and let's see. So these huge spaces are what I really don't want. Spirited Away. I have no idea what is that. Carmen Rider? Yeah, so you know what, I'm going to just comment this out and then get it back as it is. So let's move on to the next part. I'll put a comma here. So after this, I need some spacing, so I'll copy this and I'll paste this right here to get some spacing. And I'm going to create a size box, and this size box is going to have a child, and the child is going to be a row. And then of course, we all know what a row takes, children. Now, essentially what I'm doing is we are going to create spacing for the release date and the review, and that is what we are doing. Okay, so if I can get this done. So for this first child, I'm going to pass in a container, and in this container, first I'll give it some pattern. So the pattern here is going to be const edge inserts, if I can spell, and let's give everything, let's say 8. All these values can be tweaked to your liking, so don't feel like you have to use exactly what I'm using. And then let's decorate this a bit. So box decoration, and then in here we are going to set the border, so you'll soon see exactly what I'm doing. And then here we are going to use border dot all, and then inside here we can set the color to colors. Let's go with white or gray. You know what, let's go with gray, just like that. And then we can set the border radius to border radius dot circular, and let's say we pass in 10. So if I save this, you see this weird looking thing, but that's not what we are doing yet. It's because it has no child. Okay, now the child of that container is going to be a row, and we are going to pass in some children. So the first child of that row is going to be a text widget. Don't worry if this seems confusing. I would explain all that I'm doing, or as I go on, you'll see. So this is going to be the release date, and what I'll do is I'll put and then give a space in here. And then for the style, I hope I still have the style. No, I don't. So let's grab styling from here, and then we can paste this here. So for this, I believe, let me format this. I believe we can maintain the Roboto font, but let's make this maybe 17. And then the font weight, we could just make this bold. And then let's give a color. We even need a color. You know what? I'm not going to give a color for now. Just going to save this. And then this is what we've done so far. Okay. So the first row, okay, let me finish so that I can explain this part, and let me put a comma here. So after this text widget, we are going to have another text widget, and this is going to be the actual release date. So we are going to pass in movie.release date, just like this. And we can also go ahead and style this a bit. So I'll just paste what we have here. You know what, I'm just going to do this so that I don't have to change anything. So I'm going to grab this and then just paste this here, so that it is exactly the same thing. And when I save this, you can see this what we have. Okay, now I'm going to put a comma here, and also put a comma here. The next step is, after this container, I'm going to create another container in here, and in this container is almost the same thing. It's almost the same thing. So what I'll do is I'm going to grab everything here, pass this in here. So if I save this, we have a very similar thing. And then the child of that, you can see that I can just abstract this, because what I need to do here is I'm recreating a very similar thing, but this part is going to be the rating. Okay, this is going to be the rating, and then the next part here is going to be like the actual rating stars, or not stars, but the number. So instead of trying to repeat this entire thing, we can abstract this container. So like what I was saying, you can also abstract this. So in fact, let's do that. So I'm going to extract this widget and call it a back button. I hope that's how you spell button. Then we have a widgets folder. So we can go down and then we locate this back button and we can cut it, go to our widgets, create a new file, call it back_button.dart, and then we can paste this here and then make our imports, material, imports our colors here, and then we can head back to our details screen and we just make sure this is const. So that's a bit cleaner. If I save this, you can see my back button has disappeared for some reason. Oh, so our back button has disappeared because in Flutter there's actually like a back button itself, as you can see. Okay, and I am also calling my button the same name, and so there's a bit of a confusion. So what I'll do is I'll come back here and I'll try and give this a different name. So pressing F2, I'll call this back, this is going to suck, but I'll call this back BTN for lack of a better name. And we can head back to our details page and change this to back BTN, and there we go, we have our button. Okay, all right, then so with what I was doing here, maybe let me complete the whole thing so that you don't get confused with what's happening. Okay, even though I'm going to be writing technically more code. So where did I get to? So in this container, the child of this container is going to be a row also, very similar to what we did. And then so children, the first child is going to be a text that says rating, and we can style this just the same way as we styled this. So I'm going to grab this part, so you can see it's just the same thing I'm doing, but I want you to understand what I'm getting at before I refactor this. So we have the text saying rating. So if I say that, you can see we have rating just like that. And the next thing I want is, so after the text, I want a const icon. So not so necessary, but I just want to have that. So we can use the icons of star. And then for the star, we can use color and some reason, and then my spelling, we can say colors dot amber. Let's go with amber. Oh my god, if I'm a bit all over the place, it's 4 a.m. now and I think my eyes are getting heavy, but anyway, so this is what we've done, and we can now go outside of this icon and then we can get another text widget. And in here, we are now going to get the vote average. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to interpolate this, access our movie, and then get the vote average. So that is one part down. But then, you know, this is in a decimal form and we want it to just be one decimal place. So we can say 2 as fixed. And then here we pass in. So in here we can pass in 1. So this is literally saying I want to 1 decimal value. So if I pass in 2, then that's 2 decimal values and stuff like that. Then after this, I'm going to say a / and then 10. Okay, so this is the rating. So if I go ahead, format this a bit, actually close this. This is what it looks like. And then if I save this, this is what we have. Okay, as you can see. Then hopefully I still have the style. So we have something like that. Okay, so the only difference is that I think I forgot to put in maybe some colons here. Might make it look good. So something like that. So you can see this and this look very similar, but you can see the only difference here is that this has a star and this doesn't have a star. And you can see how these two are kind of close. So remember the first row we had in the column. So this first row, we are going to access the main axis alignment and then use space between to push them left and right. So the first row is housing these two guys here. The second row, as you can see, is for the release date and then the date itself. And then the third row, so we have two rows inside that singular row, and then the other row, as you can see, is the container that has that row, which is the rating and then the actual rating star. So like I was saying, you can see it's very similar. The only thing that is different is this. Yeah, so I thought about extracting this, but I think I'll just leave it as it is. You can extract them into their separate widgets, which is good, but I think for the purpose of this app, I'll just leave it as it is. This is a pretty lengthy class, I believe, but something you can just extract. So yeah, so this is just about it. So if we go back and let's see transformers, so hopefully we'll be able to see. So you notice how this is moving all the way up. Okay, so let me see if I can show you what I mean. So let me go all the way to where do we have the overview. So what I'll do is I am going to actually create a mesh. So I'm going to cut this, and then here I'm going to do some string interpolation, oops, like this, and then paste this in there. And then I'll come out here and I want to have a lot of text so that I can show you what I mean by using the sliver app bar if you've never used it before. Hopefully this is enough. So let's see if I have all of that. So notice how when I scroll, we have the text now, Transformers Rise of the Beast. Okay, that's why I use the sliver app bar. Okay, and you notice that it gets pinned, and the float here is, you see how the text floats. Okay, so that is the whole idea of me using a sliver app bar, just like that. So when there's more text, you'll be able to scroll this way and then see more. So let me see if I can add, just going to copy this and then paste this here. So you can see we can keep scrolling, but once we are done, we get back here. So it's a very cool thing to use. So let me just undo all of that. So we can check other movies, Spider-Man, and as you can see. So yeah, this brings us to the final part of the tutorial, and I hope we learned a lot about how to use APIs. And feel free to customize this as much as you want and tweak things and have fun with it. If you want, you can implement a search. I've had people ask for how to download a movie and all of that, but that is quite illegal. You would have to have some paid service to some service. You can just download movies off like that. That would be quite illegal to do, but yeah, maybe I'll look into that and see. But this brings us to the final episode, and thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you guys in another video. Peace.